to the House and Large. This is Jananjan. Today I stand before you strongly supporting the motion of the House which have been established in this moment of time to me, that is tourism kills local culture. Well, I'll take this house to a small story. Let's go to a small village where the culture, the local culture which have been established for a very long time, from decades, and now there are few visitors. Now the visitors are not someone from the other parts of the nation but somewhere out of this nation itself. And we can clearly see in this moment of time what happens is not just like the Britishers who came here, just like the other perpetuators who came here and just have a pragmatism of how they have destroyed local culture. And that's not how I have been speaking about this motion. It's how the environment which we are being establishing on. If we talk about the United Nations General Assembly under the Resolution 4 of the subclause 13.18, it clearly mentions when, for example, in a particular region, when there is an influence of tourism, there is an adoption in new technologies, in adoption of new practices. And now those practices again and again changes, it just nullifies and destroys the local culture which have been established for a very long time. And now the very important thing which we also have to understand in this moment of time, that when we talk about local practices or local culture, we do not only come to a single influence of a particular thing which about a dance or modernity, but about a lot of cultures, be it the food, be it anything which have been going on for a longer period of time. So in this moment of time, we can clearly see when there are foreigners or visitors who are visiting during this moment of time to a particular place, we can clearly see how the influence of the visitors to influence those visitors, and for the amount which we call the money influence which comes into factor because a new tradition or a commercial factor lies into there, and how modernity have been changing the entire practices which have been going on. We can clearly see in many regions of Manipur how things have been changing. Now this is a coin, and now when I flip this coin, we can clearly see that there is a change in factor. Now, if there's tourism, in this moment of time, tourism provides a number one thing which even highlighted in the S.T. Goswami versus the Union of India in 2011 and the S.T. Goswami versus the Union of India 2013, how clearly we can see that how when tourism is there, there is an influence of money which comes into factor. And when there's an influence of money which comes into factor, there are many local practices which have been going on. Let's go to a simple village of Zukitsu in Nagaland. We can clearly see the practices which have been going on, the culture which was there, it was about to die. But when we can see that the Niti Aayog under the 18th resolution have influenced those more tourism to play into factor, we can see when there was more tourism, the commercialized factor also helped those local practices to come out there. Also, now recently in this moment of time, similar in past few times, we have seen that when the judges were established in this moment of time, the speaker which was encouraged here were given a gamosa. Now, let's imagine that speaker or the moderator in this moment of time is not from this year and is a tourist. Now, when the tourist goes to that particular place, into their hometown, he carries that pride of Assam. And now when he carries that pride of Assam, he not directly, he is not destroying the local culture, but he is flourishing the local culture. And that's how we can clearly see in this moment of time, the tourism is not destroying the local culture, but it's flourishing the local culture. Now, but this is coin, and when there's a probability, if we toss it one, we get a head, toss it again, we get a flip, but toss it again, we get a head again. And now here's another factor which comes into play. When we see that tourism are coming, local practices which are going on for a longer period of time, they are not influential. For example, let's take an example of the Mokachung in Nagaland. They had a different language which they were speaking. But now what happens when there was the influence of tourism and the Portuguese tourists coming into a very huge number of numbers, we can clearly see that there have been a Portuguese influence into their local language. And what's happening is that their original cultural, and there's now a division into that particular tribe. The Sisiku tribe. The Sisiku tribe is now divided into two major factors. One major factor which lives into the complete rural areas and which is completely out of the tourists which are coming here, and they follow our different tradition. And another Suzuki tribe which have been into the influence and the commercialization which happened, and for that we can clearly see how it have been a new influence and a new division of power. Now coming back to the factor again, that there are those two tribes which I have been highlighted. One tribe which is into the rural areas is living under poverty. But now when we talk about the Suzuki tribe which have been under the tourism factor, we clearly see that tribe have not only have flourished into there's something called Association of Indian Universities. And now when tourism came into factor and there are more tourists from the other regions of the part of Indian tourism, from the other parts of the world, we can clearly see that how videos of this flourished under social media, and we have seen how this region, how the Suzuki tribe, with the flourishing of their dances, which was so much vibrant, were not able to flourish under, but now is now being performed under when the leaders of other paper like the Japan Prime Minister comes, this type of dances are being performed, and this is the influence of tourism. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much.